Peeni Henare, is a former Tāmaki Makaurau MP and the current Labour Party candidate in the Tāmaki Makaurau by-election. He joins me now. E kara Peeni tēnā koe.
Kia ora tātou.
No mai. I'm going to ask the same question I asked Oranga Tamariki. Why you and why now?
Look, I think right now is a chance to build on some of the good work that we did when we were in power. I drove through Māngai recently, saw the houses that we had built, and all that's come to a stop. And I think, if you're going to embody the kōrero of my tupuna, we have come too far not to go further. I do think too that the race in 2023 was so close, it does demand and warrant going back to the people to seek the mandate. And that's what we're doing now.
There are those who would say that it was, yes, close, but it was a symbol, it was a sign that perhaps the time had passed you by and it was time to move to someone else. I mean, as Oranga Tamariki says, they've had Peeni Henare in the past. They've now got Oranga Tamariki. What's your response to that?
Well, I stand by my record. Like I said, as we go around Tāmaki Makaurau, I've seen the work that I've done as part of a strong Labour Party and a strong Labour government. We talk about te aka whai ora and all the things that our people asked us to do. I had a big hand in those things. And I think as we approach this very unstable time with this current government, there's an opportunity to bring some tau to the matters that are before our people. And I think first and foremost, they must be the ones that confront us on the daily. And we talk about cost of living, health. But of course, there are other kaupapa that I know our people expect us to continue to drive. Things like Te Tiriti of Waitangi, he whakaputanga, mana motuhake. And I believe I've still got those to offer our people here in Tāmaki Makaurau.
I do want to follow up on that, as well as other policy issues. But you may have seen the Pāti Māori release something earlier today talking about the fact that actually Tāmaki Makaurau could get two people for one here. So they're saying don't vote for Peeni Henare. If you vote for Oranga Tamariki, you still get Peeni. They're right.
In 2014, I heard the same line, same again in 2017, 2020 and 2023. The point though is, ka tangi tonu hia tātou ki tō tātou tuahine kia takutai. We now have a chance to let Tāmaki Makaurau choose and speak again. And that's what this affords all of us the opportunity to do here in Tāmaki Makaurau. And I heard the case of Peeni and his attempt here is trying to silence another Māori voice coming into Parliament. The fact of the matter is, if I should be, God willing, lucky enough to win, that the next person on the Labour list is he wahine Māori. Ko tōna tupuna, nāna te pū i kawea ki roto i te pakanga tuatahi o te ao, former Māori All Black. So we now have a conundrum here. And now we've got to go back to our people, test a mandate and say, who is it that you want to represent Tāmaki Makaurau?
Okay. I mentioned that I want to talk about policy. The last Labour government, many have said, fell over because it wasn't Māori enough, it wasn't strong enough, it wasn't bold enough. I'm talking about things like capital gains tax that may be being considered now, we simply don't know. What has changed? What is the aspiration and policy that you will present throughout the campaign for the benefit of the people in Tāmaki Makaurau, for housing, for health?
Yeah, great question. And I must preface by saying, we're in our policy development stage. We had a view towards 2026. Nobody ever thought we'd have a by-election here in Tāmaki Makaurau. But I do want to be very clear. We've signalled that we've got work to do with respect to considerable tax change, and that policy will come out in the near future. With respect to housing, we know that the only way out of a housing crisis is to build your way out of it. We had a strong building program here in Tāmaki Makaurau which saw hundreds and thousands of homes being built here for the public to be able to utilise. That way we could drive down house prices so that people can start affording houses. We could start to drive down the rent, but also build at scale. What we've seen from this government is a decision to stop the work that Kāinga Ora was doing. Now, where work once was happening, you can drive down Rockfield Road in Onehunga, you can drive through Māngai Bridge, and you'll see now those lots are vacant. And we're asking ourselves, well, where are the houses? We need these houses. Those were kaupapa that we carried as the last Labour government, and those are kaupapa that we want to continue as a strong public housing build here in Tāmaki Makaurau. That's the only way we're going to get out of that particular crisis. But there are more kaupapa, of course. Housing is just one of those, and it's a symptom of the government's decisions of this coalition of chaos.
Do you support housing intensification?
Yes, I do. I believe that there's the quarter acre dream that our tupuna and our parents once held. Well, like I said to my son when he was looking for a whare, boy, I've never seen you mow a lawn. So we've got to look towards the way we build up and not out. We've heard the kōrero from our Ngāti Whatua relations in the south saying, hey, you're using prime whenua that grows kai to build houses. And that's a challenge. And I think if we look at the examples here in Tāmaki, we see what Ngāti Whatua are doing, housing density, building up, building communities. I think there's a smarter way to do housing here.
Okay. One of the other issues that you talked about is about treaty issues. And what many people would classify as a tax on Māori by the current coalition government. What will you talk to in that regard throughout this campaign? Because many people in Tāmaki Makaurau voted with their feet with the hikoi at the end of last year. What will you talk to allay some of the fears and to potentially also give some strength and reinforcement to voters in Tāmaki Makaurau with what is happening with the current coalition government?
Look, we know those attacks very clear, and like you said, thousands of our people came to Parliament and marched on Parliament. I want to be very clear. In our time as a government, we put Te Tiriti of Waitangi into legislation. Oranga Tamariki, health, education. We did that, and we can do that again. Just as a starting point to make sure that Te Tiriti of Waitangi gets the recognition our people are expecting. Now, to a further point, though, with respect to Te Tiriti o Waitangi and the way we view mana motuhake, I do believe, as most of our whanaunga of Ngāpuhi live here in Tāmaki Makaurau, there is a job here to make sure that in any pushing forward of a settlement for Ngāpuhi, which will impact Tāmaki Makaurau because its people are here, we need to be clear about what does that sovereignty look like, what does it mean. And that's something that I've been quite privileged to have been raised in. Understanding what that mana motuhake and that tino rangatiratanga looks like and carry it not just in Parliament but in my everyday life. And I think we've got an opportunity as Ngāpuhi, and as most of them reside in Tāmaki Makaurau, to actually do something quite fundamentally different.
Turnout will be key. We know that in by-elections many Māori voters don't get out and vote. How important is it that people get out and vote, and how will you help that accrue?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Look, we know that social media has its place, and he taumata kōrero tēnā. But most importantly, ākanohi. That's how we're going to do it. We have to make sure that when people have a question, they can actually engage in the wānanga to help make them, to allow them to make their decision as they see fit. And that's the point I want to make with your reference earlier. Who thinks they can tell our Māori voters what to do? It is up to our Māori people here in Tāmaki Makaurau to make that choice. Our job is to engage with them on that front. We've learned lessons from 2023 where Labour didn't get it right. Our leader's been very clear on that. So we've taken the time to listen, we've taken the time to engage. And it's important that as we lead into the by-election, as it currently stands, the Tāmaki Makaurau seat is vacant, that the people get the person that they want there to best represent their interests. And the only way to do that is the good old-fashioned Māori way, kanohi ki te kanohi.
Peeni, all the best with the campaign. Thank you for your time.
Tēnā koe.
Kia ora maina. That was, of course, Peeni Henare, the Labour Party candidate for the Tāmaki Makaurau by-election.
For more Hui content, subscribe to our YouTube channel.